The Cave of Secrets. The night was cold. The sky was black and heavy with storm clouds. Lightning flashed far away, and thunder rolled like a giant drum. Rain poured down on the lonely mountains, turning the rocks wet and slippery. A human traveler walked carefully through this alien land. His boots sank into the mud. His clothes were soaked, but he did not stop. He had no home here, no one to welcome him. He was just a wanderer far from Earth, searching for a place to rest. Then, through the storm, he heard something unusual. It was not the sound of the rain. It was not the sound of thunder. It was a soft cry, weak and broken, like someone in pain. The human froze. His eyes narrowed. Who could be out here in the storm? He followed the sound. Step by step, he climbed higher up the rocks. The cries grew louder, mixed with the wind. At last he saw a dark opening in the side of the mountain. A cave. The sound came from inside. The human stood at the entrance. The cave was black, the kind of black that made you feel it could swallow you whole. Cold air came from within, carrying the smell of damp stone and ashes. He could see the remains of a small fire near the entrance. The fire was dead, only smoke and cold ash left behind. Someone had been here. Recently. The human slowly stepped inside. His hand touched the wall of the cave. It was rough and wet. The sound of the storm outside faded, replaced by silence. But then, he heard it again. A whimper. A child's whimper. The human's heart beat faster. He followed the sound deeper into the cave. His eyes adjusted to the dark. Shapes appeared, rocks, broken branches, something that looked like a small blanket on the ground. And then, glowing eyes. Two tiny glowing eyes stared at him from behind a rock. Then another pair. Small, frightened eyes. Children's eyes. The human stepped back in shock. Alien children. They looked thin, their faces pale, their small arms shaking. Their skin had a strange light blue tone, and their hair was silver like moonlight. They stared at him with fear, clutching each other tightly. Before he could speak, a shadow moved in the corner. From the darkness she appeared, an alien woman, weak and tired, with the same blue skin and silver hair. Her clothes were torn, her body thin, as if she had not eaten properly for many days. She carried another child in her arms, even younger, wrapped in a dirty cloth. Her eyes locked on the human, wide, glowing, full of both fear and hope. The human froze. His mind filled with questions. Who was she? Why was she hiding here with children? Where was the rest of her people? The alien mother stepped forward, but her legs shook. She nearly fell, catching herself on the wall. She looked at the human as if he was her last chance. Please. Her voice was weak, broken, but filled with desperation. Please, do not hurt us. The children whimpered again, hiding behind her legs. The cave was silent except for their breathing and the storm outside. The human's chest tightened. He saw the fear in their eyes, but he also saw something else. Loneliness. Abandonment. The alien mother spoke again, her voice shaking. We have nowhere to go. My people left me. They left my children. We are alone. We are dying. She took one trembling step closer, clutching the child in her arms. Tears rolled down her cheeks, glowing faintly in the dim light. Human. Stranger. Whoever you are, she whispered. I beg you. Help us. The human felt the weight of her words. He wanted to turn away. This was not his problem. He was only a traveler. But deep inside, something stopped him. Something told him this meeting was not an accident. The cave seemed to grow colder. The storm outside roared louder. And in that dark moment, the human understood. This was not just a cave. It was a place of secrets, of pain, of choices that could change everything. The children stared at him, their small hands gripping their mother's torn clothes. The mother looked at him with pleading eyes, her voice breaking once more. Please, don't leave us. And in that instant, the human knew. This night was only the beginning. The Cave of Secrets. The night was cold. The sky was black and heavy with storm clouds. Lightning flashed far away, and thunder rolled like a giant drum. Rain poured down on the lonely mountains, turning the rocks wet and slippery. A human traveler walked carefully through this alien land. His boots sank into the mud. His clothes were soaked, but he did not stop. He had no home here, no one to welcome him. He was just a wanderer far from Earth, searching for a place to rest. Then, through the storm, he heard something unusual. It was not the sound of the rain. It was not the sound of thunder. It was a soft cry, weak and broken, like someone in pain. The human froze, his eyes narrowed. Who could be out here in the storm? He followed the sound. Step by step, he climbed higher up the rocks. The cries grew louder, mixed with the wind. At last, he saw a dark opening in the side of the mountain. A cave. The sound came from inside. The human stood at the entrance. The cave was black, the kind of black that made you feel it could swallow you whole. Cold air came from within, carrying the smell of damp stone and ashes. He could see the remains of a small fire near the entrance. The fire was dead, only smoke and cold ash left behind. Someone had been here. Recently. The human slowly stepped inside. His hand touched the wall of the cave. It was rough and wet. The sound of the storm outside faded, replaced by silence. But then, he heard it again. A whimper. A child's whimper. The human's heart beat faster. He followed the sound deeper into the cave. His eyes adjusted to the dark. Shapes appeared. Rocks, broken branches, something that looked like a small blanket on the ground. And then, glowing eyes. Two tiny glowing eyes stared at him from behind a rock. Then, another pair. Small, frightened eyes. Children's eyes. The human stepped back in shock. Alien children. They looked thin, their faces pale, their small arms shaking. Their skin had a strange light blue tone, and their hair was silver like moonlight. They stared at him with fear, clutching each other tightly. Before he could speak, a shadow moved in the corner. From the darkness she appeared, an alien woman, weak and tired, with the same blue skin and silver hair. Her clothes were torn, her body thin, as if she had not eaten properly for many days. She carried another child in her arms, even younger, wrapped in a dirty cloth. Her eyes locked on the human, wide, glowing, full of both fear and hope. The human froze. His mind filled with questions. Who was she? Why was she hiding here with children? Where was the rest of her people? The alien mother stepped forward, but her legs shook. She nearly fell, catching herself on the wall. She looked at the human as if he was her last chance. Please. Her voice was weak, broken, but filled with desperation. Please, do not hurt us. The children whimpered again, hiding behind her legs. The cave was silent except for their breathing and the storm outside. The human's chest tightened. He saw the fear in their eyes, but he also saw something else. Loneliness. Abandonment. The alien mother spoke again, her voice shaking. We have nowhere to go. My people left me. They left my children. We are alone. We are dying. She took one trembling step closer, clutching the child in her arms. Tears rolled down her cheeks, glowing faintly in the dim light. Human. Stranger. Whoever you are, she whispered. I beg you, help us. The human felt the weight of her words. He wanted to turn away. This was not his problem. He was only a traveler, but deep inside something stopped him. Something told him this meeting was not an accident. The cave seemed to grow colder. The storm outside roared louder, and in that dark moment, the human understood. This was not just a cave. It was a place of secrets, of pain, of choices that could change everything. The children stared at him, their small hands gripping their mother's torn clothes. The mother looked at him with pleading eyes, her voice breaking once more. Please, don't leave us." And in that instant the human knew this night was only the beginning, the human's choice. The storm outside grew wilder, wind howling like a beast. The cave's entrance flickered with strange lights, shadows moving, weapons glowing faintly in the night. The alien mother clutched her children tightly, her eyes wide with terror. The human stood still, blade in his hand, heart pounding like thunder. His mind raced. This was not his fight. He could leave now, vanish into the storm, and survive. But then he heard it. Tiny breaths behind him. The children. They huddled together, trembling, eyes glowing with fear. The smallest one gave a soft cry and reached her tiny hand toward him. The sound pierced his heart. He looked back at the mother. She was kneeling, holding her youngest close. Her voice a desperate whisper. "Please, if you walk away now, they will kill us. You are our only hope." Her words struck him again. Husband, father, protector. Could he take on such a burden? He had never been a father. He had never stayed long enough anywhere to even be called family. He was just a wanderer, a man with no home. But now, in this cave, he was being asked to become something more. Another sound echoed outside. Stones broke loose from the cliff, crashing to the ground. The hunters were close. Too close. The human's jaw tightened. His blade gleamed in the faint light. He stepped forward, placing himself firmly between the family and the cave mouth. "Stay behind me," he said, his voice steady but sharp. The mother gasped softly, her eyes filled with shock. She did not expect him to stand. The children clung, tighter to her, whispering that word again, soft but powerful. "Father." The human's heart beat faster. He had no shield, no armor, only his blade and his will. But sometimes will was enough. The first shadow appeared. A tall figure with armor made of bone and metal stepped into view. His eyes glowed red in the dark, his weapon crackling with energy. Another hunter followed, then another. Their growls echoed through the cave. One of them pointed at the mother. His voice was cruel and sharp. "There she is, the weak one, the cursed one. End this quickly." The mother pulled her children close and cried out, "No, please!" But before she could finish, the human stepped forward. His blade cut through the silence as he raised it high. His voice roared like thunder. "You will not touch them." The hunters froze for a moment, their glowing eyes fixed on him. A human standing against them? Impossible. One laughed coldly. "Move aside, off-worlder, this is not your fight." The human's grip tightened. "It is now." The first hunter snarled and charged. His weapon swung down, aiming for the human's head. The human sidestepped, fast as lightning, and struck with his blade. Steel met armor, sparks flying. The hunter stumbled back, shocked at his speed. Another hunter came forward, roaring. The human ducked low, rolled across the stone, and slashed at his legs. The creature howled, crashing to the ground. The mother gasped, watching with wide eyes. The children buried their faces in her torn clothes, but she could not look away. She had never seen such defiance. No one of her people would dare stand against hunters. But this man, this human, fought like a storm given flesh. But he was only one man. The hunters regrouped, circling him. Their weapons hummed with deadly energy. The human's chest rose and fell. His arm ached already, but he did not step back. His eyes burned with fire. He shouted over the storm, his voice shaking the walls of the cave. "If you want them, you must go through me," the hunters growled, ready to strike again. But then, something unexpected happened. One of the children, the eldest, crawled forward and shouted in his small voice, "Father, don't give up." The word struck the human's heart like lightning. Father. The word carried weight. The word gave him strength. He tightened his grip on the blade and raised it high once more. He was no longer fighting for himself. He was fighting for them, for the mother, for the children, for the chance of a family he never thought he'd have. The hunters attacked together, But the human roared and met them head-on. His blade flashed, his movements fueled not by survival alone, but by something stronger: purpose. He was battered, bruised, nearly knocked to the ground. But each time he stumbled, he remembered the little hand that reached for him. He remembered the plea in the mother's eyes. He remembered the word, Father, and each time he rose again. At last the hunters pulled back, growling in frustration. One of them hissed, "This is not over. We will return with more, and when we do, not even you will save them." With that, they vanished into the storm. The cave fell silent once more. The human stood breathing hard, blade dripping with blood, his body trembling. Behind him the children cried softly. The mother crawled forward, her eyes filled with tears. Not of fear this time, but of something else. Gratitude. Hope. She whispered, voice shaking. "You chose us." The human looked down at her, his chest still heaving. He lowered his blade, his voice firm. "Yes, I chose you, and I will keep choosing you. As long as I live." The children rushed forward, wrapping their small arms around him. For the first time in years, the human felt something warm in his heart. Not just duty, not just survival, but belonging. The storm raged outside, but inside the cave, a new bond was formed. The human was no longer a wanderer. He was something greater. He was a father. The hunter's shadows. The storm passed, but the fear inside the cave did not. The human sat near the entrance, his blade resting across his knees, his eyes scanning the dark valley below. His body was sore from the fight, his arms heavy, but his spirit burned brighter than ever. Behind him, the alien mother cared for her children. She held the youngest close to her chest, humming a soft, broken tune. The older two clung to her side, their glowing eyes still wide with fear, but also with something new: trust. For the first time in a long time, they felt safe. The human knew that safety would not last. He had seen the look in the hunters' eyes before they fled. They were not beaten, they were waiting, gathering strength. They would come back. And when they did, it would be worse. The mother's voice broke the silence. "You fought for us, though we are not your blood. Why?" The human looked back at her. The firelight lit her tired face, the silver strands of her hair shining faintly in the dark. He spoke simply. "Because no one should be left to die. Not you. Not them." Her eyes softened. She lowered her head. "My people called me cursed, weak, useless. But you call me worth saving." The human did not reply. He only tightened his grip on the blade. Hours passed. The storm faded, leaving only the whisper of dripping water outside. The children finally fell asleep, curled up against their mother. The cave was quiet again, but the human did not sleep. His instincts screamed danger. Then he heard it. A sound carried through the night. Distant at first, then closer. Heavy footsteps. The crack of branches breaking under armored feet. The low growl of alien voices. The hunters had returned. The human's heart hardened. He rose to his feet, blade ready, eyes sharp. He turned to the mother. "They're here." Her face turned pale. She pulled her children close, whispering to them to stay quiet, stay still. The eldest child looked at the human, tears in his glowing eyes. "Father, don't leave us." The human knelt, placing a hand gently on the child's head. "I won't." Then he stood and faced the cave mouth. Shadows moved outside, stretching long across the rocks. More hunters than before. Their glowing weapons lit the night. Their laughter echoed cruelly through the valley. One of them spoke, his voice booming. "Off-worlder, you stand in the way of justice. Give us the woman and her spawn, and we may let you live." The human stepped forward, his voice steady and sharp. "You call this justice, hunting children, abandoning a mother? No. This is cowardice," the hunters growled. One raised his weapon. "Then you will die with them." The human's jaw tightened. He whispered under his breath, almost to himself, "Not while I live." The hunters entered the cave. Their armor gleamed, their weapons sparking with deadly energy. There were 5 of them now, maybe more outside. The human stood alone between them and the family. The first hunter lunged. The human dodged, slashing across his arm, sparks flying. Another swung from the side. The human ducked, his blade cutting through the darkness. The cave echoed with roars and the clash of steel. The mother watched, heart racing, clutching her children. She wanted to close her eyes, but she could not. This human fought with fire, with fury, with something her people had never shown. Sacrifice. He bled, but he did not fall. He stumbled, but he rose again. His will was unbreakable. The hunters grew frustrated. One shouted, "He cannot fight forever. Tire him out." The human's breath came hard, his muscles screaming. But then he heard it again, the small voices of the children behind him. "Father, don't give up." The words gave him strength. His blade struck harder, faster, fueled by something greater than survival. He was no longer just a wanderer with a weapon. He was a shield. He was their wall against the darkness. But the hunters pressed on. They were too many. The human's vision blurred, his arms heavy. One blow struck his side, sending him crashing to the ground. His blade skidded across the stone. The mother screamed. The children cried out. The lead hunter stepped forward, raising his weapon for the final strike. "It ends now, human." But before the weapon fell, the mother rose. Weak, trembling, but determined, she stood in front of her children, her arms spread wide. "No," she cried, her voice breaking. "If you kill him, you kill us too. He is my husband. He is father to my children. If you strike him down, you will strike us all." The cave went silent. Even the hunters hesitated, shocked by her words. Husband, father. She had claimed him right there before death. The human groaned, forcing himself to his feet. Blood ran down his face, but his eyes burned with fire. He picked up his blade and stood beside her. "You hurt her," he said, his voice low but strong. "We are family now, and I will fight for my family until my last breath." The hunters snarled, but something had shifted. For the first time, doubt flickered in their glowing eyes. The storm outside began to rise again, the wind screaming through the mountains. The hunters stepped back into the shadows, their leader growling, "This is not over, off-worlder. We will return with more, and when we do, no cave will hide you." Then, as quickly as they came, they vanished into the storm. The cave was silent, again except for the sound of heavy breathing. The mother fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. The children ran to the human, clinging to him, sobbing. He dropped his blade, wrapping his arms around them. In that dark cave, among blood and fear, a promise was sealed. They were no longer strangers. They were family, and the shadows of the hunters would not break them, not while he lived. Building a family. The storm outside finally faded, leaving the cave wrapped in silence. The air was heavy with smoke from the fire and the sharp smell of blood. The human sat against the stone wall, breathing hard, his blade lying beside him. His body ached, every muscle screaming, but he was alive, and more importantly, the family was safe. The alien mother sat close to him, her children nestled against her sides. The smallest child slept in her arms, while the older two leaned against her shoulders. Their glowing eyes still held fear, but there was also something new, trust. For the first time in days, the children were calm enough to sleep. The human watched them, his chest heavy with feelings he could not name. He had faced enemies before. He had fought wars. But never had he fought for something like this. Never for a family. The mother broke the silence, her voice soft and trembling. "You stood between us and death. No one of my people would have done that. They called me cursed, but you call me worth saving. Why?" The human looked into the fire, the flames reflecting in his tired eyes. "I was alone," he said slowly. "For a long time I walked with no home, no family. Tonight I realized maybe I was searching for something I didn't know I needed." The mother lowered her head, her tears glowing faintly in the firelight. "You mean us?" He nodded once. The mother pressed her children closer. She had been abandoned, broken, left to die. Yet this stranger, this human, had stood for her when no one else would. Her heart, so heavy with despair, now felt a spark of hope. As dawn broke, the cave glowed faintly with soft morning light. The storm clouds cleared, and the valley stretched wide below them. The children woke one by one, their small stomachs growling with hunger. The human stood, though his body ached. "I'll find food," he said. The eldest child tugged at his arm. "Father, it's dangerous out there." The word struck him again, father. He had never heard it in his life. Yet now it felt right, like a mantle placed upon his shoulders. He smiled faintly, patting the boy's head. "Danger doesn't scare me. Stay with your mother, I'll be back." The mother watched him leave, her heart caught between fear and faith. The forest outside was damp, the ground soft from the storm. The human moved quietly, eyes sharp, ears listening for hunters. He found berries, roots, and at last a small animal he managed to trap. By the time he returned, the children's eyes lit up with joy. They ate slowly, their weak bodies regaining strength. The human shared his portion with the youngest child, who giggled softly for the first time. The sound filled the cave like music. Day by day, life in the cave began to change. The human taught the children small games to keep them smiling. He showed them how to stack stones, how to draw in the dirt, how to laugh even when the world was cruel. He sharpened sticks into toys and taught them simple words of his language. The eldest child began to copy his movements, holding a stick like a sword, practicing swings. "Like father," he shouted proudly. The human chuckled. "Not yet. First, you learn to stand strong." The mother watched quietly, her heart swelling. She had once thought her children would never know joy again, but now laughter echoed in the cave, warming its cold walls. At night, when the children slept, she spoke with the human in whispers. "You are strange," she said softly. "Your kind is not like mine. My people see weakness as death. But you see weakness and choose to protect it." The human's eyes softened. "Because weakness today can be strength tomorrow. Children grow, mothers heal, and family is worth any fight." Her chest tightened at his words. She lowered her gaze. "If only my people believed the same." The human turned to her. "Then maybe it's time they learned." But even in these quiet days, shadows lingered. The human never let his blade rest far from his hand. Each night he listened for footsteps outside, waiting for the hunter's return. The children, though happier, still woke sometimes from nightmares, crying out in fear. Each time the human was there, holding them close, whispering, "You're safe. I'm here." The mother saw how he calmed them, how he gave them something she could not, strength without cruelty, love without condition. One night, as the fire burned low, she turned to him. Her voice was soft, almost afraid. "Do you regret it?" "Regret what?" he asked. "Choosing us, standing with us, becoming father to children not your own." The human looked at the sleeping children, their small faces peaceful at last. He shook his head slowly. "No, I don't regret it. I was empty before. Now I have something worth fighting for." The mother's tears fell silently. For the first time since her exile, she smiled without pain. But far in the valley, shadows gathered once more. The hunters had not forgotten. Their leader sharpened his blade, his eyes burning with rage. "This human thinks he can steal what we abandoned. We will show him what it means to defy us. Next time he will not survive." The shadows of war stretched long, even as the cave filled with warmth, and though the human did not yet know it, his greatest battle was still to come, the last stand. The night was heavy with silence, the kind of silence that comes before a storm. The human stood at the cave entrance, watching the valley below. His grip on the blade was tight, his eyes sharp, his body tired but unbroken. He knew they would come. The alien mother sat deeper in the cave, holding her children close. The fire burned low, its glow flickering across their small faces. They were trying to sleep, but fear kept their eyes open. The mother whispered soft songs to calm them, though her own voice trembled. The human looked back at her. Their eyes met. No words were needed. They both knew this night would decide everything. Then it began. From the valley came the sound of drums, low, heavy, like the heartbeat of some giant beast. The ground shook with the weight of many feet. Lights moved in the darkness, red and cold. The hunters had returned, not a few this time, but many. The human's jaw tightened. He stepped back into the cave and spoke firmly. "They're here. Stay behind me. No matter what happens, do not move." The mother nodded, her arms tightening around the children. Her heart pounded, but her eyes burned with the fire of a mother ready to fight if she must. The hunters appeared at the mouth of the cave. Their leader stepped forward, taller and stronger than the rest, his armor black as night, his weapon glowing with cruel energy. His voice thundered through the cave. "Human, you defied us once. You saved what was already lost. But tonight, we end this. Tonight, you and the cursed ones die." The human raised his blade, his voice steady and sharp. "Then come. But remember, I don't fight alone. I fight for them." The leader snarled and raised his hand. With a roar, the hunters charged. The cave exploded with sound, blades clashing, weapons cracking, stone breaking under the weight of battle. The human moved like a storm, his blade flashing in the dark, striking with speed and fury. Every swing carried the weight of his promise. "Not while I live." The hunters pressed hard, their numbers overwhelming. The human blocked one strike, ducked another, rolled across the ground, and struck back. He cut through armor, sent enemies crashing to the stone. But for every one he dropped, two more came. Blood ran down his arm. His breath grew heavy. Still, he stood. The mother watched, her heart breaking. She could not sit idle while he bled for them. She laid her youngest child gently on the ground, kissed the child's forehead, and rose to her feet. Her voice rang out, sharp and strong. "You will not take my family." She grabbed a broken spear left by one of the fallen hunters. Her body trembled, but her hands were steady. She stood beside the human, her silver hair glowing in the firelight. The human glanced at her, eyes wide. She was weak, but her spirit was fierce. For the first time, they stood shoulder to shoulder, not just as protector and protected, but as partners. Together they fought. The human struck down one hunter, while the mother drove her spear into another's leg, forcing him back. She moved with desperation, each strike powered not by strength but by love. The children watched with wide eyes, seeing their mother no longer as the weak, abandoned one, but as a fighter who stood for them. The cave shook with the fury of battle. The hunters grew enraged. Their leader roared, his weapon blazing with energy. He charged at the human, their blades colliding in sparks of light. The clash echoed like thunder, shaking the cave walls. The leader was stronger, his blows heavy and merciless. The human stumbled, barely blocking each strike. His body screamed in pain, but his heart refused to yield. Behind him, the children cried out, "Father, don't fall!" Their voices lit a fire inside him. With a roar, he pushed back, striking, with all his strength. His blade cut through the leader's armor, sending him reeling. But the leader was not done. He raised his weapon high for a killing blow. The human was too slow to block, until the mother leapt forward. She threw herself between them, her broken spear striking the leader's chest. The weapon cracked, but the force staggered him back. The human seized the moment. With a final roar, he drove his blade deep, striking true. The leader let out a cry that shook the cave, then fell, his weapon clattering to the stone. Silence followed, heavy and final. The remaining hunters froze. Their leader was gone. Fear filled their eyes. Without another word, they fled into the night, their shadows vanishing into the valley. The cave grew quiet again. The human fell to one knee, his chest heaving, his blade slipping from his hand. Blood dripped from his wounds, but he was alive. The mother collapsed beside him, tears streaming down her face. She touched his cheek with trembling hands. You did it. We did it. We are alive. The children rushed to them, wrapping their small arms around both. Their voices shook with joy. Father, Mother, we're safe. The human looked at them, his vision blurred, his body broken but his heart full. He pulled them close, whispering, "As long as I breathe, you will always be safe." The firelight flickered across their faces. For the first time, the cave felt like home. Outside, dawn began to rise, painting the valley in gold. The hunters' shadows had been driven away. Inside, a family was born stronger than ever, and though more battles might come, one truth remained unshakable. They would stand together, always. A new dawn. The cave was quiet after the storm of battle. Smoke drifted through the air, mixed with the sharp smell of blood and burned stone. The human stood at the entrance, his blade heavy in his hand, his chest rising and falling like a man who had given everything. His body was torn with cuts, his clothes stained red, but he was alive. Behind him, the alien mother held her children close. Their glowing eyes watched him, wide and full of awe. They had seen death come to the cave, and they had seen him drive it away. The last of the hunters had fallen. Some fled into the night, broken and defeated. The others lay silent on the ground, their weapons scattered. The valley that once echoed with their cruel laughter was now filled with silence. The human turned slowly. His legs trembled, but his eyes burned bright. He looked at the mother, at the children, at the fragile family he had chosen. "It's over," he said softly. "They won't come back." The mother's lips trembled. She lowered her head, tears falling onto the dusty floor. She whispered, almost to herself, You did it. You gave us life again." The children ran to the human, clinging to his legs, crying and laughing all at once. "Father, Father," they shouted, their small arms holding him tight. The human bent down, wrapping them in his arms. He felt their tiny hearts beating fast against his chest. For the first time in years, he felt something more powerful than fear or pain. He felt belonging. The mother rose slowly. She walked toward him, her steps weak but steady. She placed her hand on his shoulder, her glowing eyes filled with tears. "You are not just a protector," she whispered. "You are my husband. And you are their father. Before the stars and the mountains, I claim you as ours." The words sank deep into him. He was no longer just a wanderer. He was no longer alone. He was husband. He was father. Days passed. The cave that once held shadows of fear now held the warmth of life. The human built stronger fires, made better shelters from broken stone, and hunted food to fill small stomachs. The children followed him everywhere, laughing, copying his movements, learning from him. The eldest child held a stick like a sword, swinging proudly. "I'll protect Mother one day, just like Father." The human smiled faintly. "You will, and you'll do it even better." The mother watched them from the fire, her heart full. She had once thought her children would die in the cold, abandoned and forgotten. But now she saw them grow stronger each day. She saw them laugh, play, dream. At night, when the children slept, she sat beside the human. The firelight glowed on her silver hair. "You came from far away," she said softly. "Your world is not ours. Do you regret staying?" The human shook his head. He looked at the children sleeping peacefully, their small chests rising and falling in calm rhythm. "I regret nothing," he said. "I wandered for so long, searching for meaning. Now I have it. You, them. This is where I belong." The mother placed her hand gently in his. For the first time, she felt safe enough to dream of tomorrow. But the galaxy does not stay quiet for long. Whispers spread of a human who stood against hunters, of a man who took in an abandoned alien mother and became father to her children. Some called it weakness, others called it madness, but many more called it something else, hope. If one human could do this, what would happen if more came? If others chose love over fear, family over cruelty? The stars above shone brighter, as, if listening, the children half asleep murmured softly, "Father, don't leave us." The human leaned down, his voice steady, filled with promise. "I'm not leaving. Not ever." The cave fell into silence, but it was no longer a silence of fear. It was the silence of peace, of hearts finally at rest. When dawn broke, light spilled across the valley. The mountains glowed gold and the air was fresh with the scent of new rain. The human stood at the cave's mouth, the mother and children at his side. The mother whispered, "A new day begins." The human nodded, "A new life." The children laughed, chasing each other in the light, their glowing eyes bright with joy. The mother leaned against him, her voice soft but strong. "They will remember this," she said. "They will tell the story of the human who became more than a wanderer, the human who chose love, who became family." The human's eyes lifted to the horizon. He felt the weight of the past fall away. For the first time in his life, he was not running. He was not searching. He had found his place. And though dangers might return, though shadows might rise again, he knew one truth that would never change. He was not alone anymore. He was a husband. He was a father. And together, they would face whatever the galaxy sent their way.